First of all, let me just say to everyone, thank you for joining us today. I am Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and the author of Woman on a 20, H.R. 3087. I am Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and author of Woman on a 20, H.R. 3082. I am honored to have our nation's top leaders, joined by so many of my colleagues here today on the steps of the United States Department of Treasury, to send a clear message to U.S. Treasurer Secretary Mnuchin and this administration that Congress is demanding that Harriet Tubman take her rightful place on the $20 bill. Last month, while testifying before the Committee on Financial Services, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin refused to commit to the following the well plans of his predecessor, Secretary Jack Lew, to include Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill and to release that design by 2020. Why? Because it is the centennial celebration of the enactment of the 19th Amendment. As one of the earliest advocates in Congress for placing a woman on the 20, I was not only appalled, I was angry with Secretary Mnuchin's lackluster response so I immediately reintroduced H.R. 2082 to require the Treasury Department to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Jack Lew stirred the country. America got excited. More than 1 million people, black, white, brown, young, and old, voted that we put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. And he decided that he would give her her rightful place in history. So today, we refuse to turn our backs on what the will of the American people have decided. Throughout her life, Harriet Tubman displayed courage to help others enjoy the same freedom that drove her to the freedom and to deliver others to freedom through the Underground Railroad. So let me just say to you, it is time for us to speak up. It is time for us to tell this secretary that we are going to fight. And every day, as long as I can have the strength, as long as I can have the voice, we will call him and tell him we do not accept the response that he had one of his staff to send me, saying that he would not continue the work of Jack Lew. We do not accept his response. We do not accept that it is not political. We know what it is. A black woman, a woman who fought for freedom from others. And that is why it is very personal to me. And at this time, I have the great honor to introduce our majority leader, Steny Hoyer, who represents the homeland of no one other than Harriet Tubman.
Thank you, Congresswoman Beatty. Thank you for your strong voice and your leadership. This is a $20 bill. Andrew Jackson is on this $20 bill. To that extent, this bill is like every other bill. No women. 53% of our population unrepresented for 2 centuries on our currency. A place of honor, a place of distinction, a place of appreciation for what has been done. Araminta Ross, Aram Mentor Ross, born in Dorchester County on the Eastern Shore in 1822. Because of the courage and determination that she had, she came to be free. And she became Harriet Tubman. If you come to my office, the Majority Leader's office of the United States House of Representatives, you will see two pictures hanging on the walls of Harriet Tubman. She deserves those places of honor in my office. But America needs to recognize her courage and the 13 dangerous trips she took to save others, because she knew being free herself was not enough. So she went back time after time after time at great personal risk to make sure that others could be free.
Yes.
So we not only honor her because of her gender, we not only honor her because of the color of her skin, but we honor her for her character.
Yes.
Her character to save and preserve and uphold America's values. That's why it is so appropriate that Harriet Tubman be added to the $20 bill, to recognize her and her courage and her vision and her mission, which is America's mission. We haven't always lived out that mission, but because of citizens like Harriet Tubman, we've become better. It is time. It is long past time, but it is never too late to do the right thing. So I urge the Secretary, I urge the President of the United States,
Yes.
pick up your phone, Mr. President, call Secretary Mnuchin and say, Mr. Secretary, this is the right thing to do for America. Make it happen. 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 America will be a better place with Tubman on the 20.
Tubman on the 20.
And now I want to introduce the Vice Chair of our Democratic caucus, one of our top leaders from the state of Massachusetts, Catherine Clark. Catherine?
Thank you. Good morning. And I want to start by thanking Congresswoman Joyce Beatty for her leadership and for never turning her back on Harriet Tubman. And show us her beautiful jacket. Harriet Tubman lived an extraordinary and selfless life. She was fearless. She was only 5 feet tall, but she stood tall for all of us. She led hundreds to freedom on the Underground Railroad, served as a Union spy during the Civil War, and fought to give women and African Americans the right to vote. Her 91 years on this earth were defined by her commitment to justice and to liberty. Like Tubman, women of color have played an instrumental role in the evolution of our nation and our democracy. Yet for too long, they are passed over, ignored and relegated to the footnotes of history. We are here today to say Harriet Tubman and women's legacies will be remembered and rightfully honored. Harriet Tubman belongs among Lincoln, Jefferson, Grant, and Hamilton. Harriet Tubman belongs on the $20 bill. Yes! In all her trips on the Underground Railroad, she was guided by the North Star. The North Star represents freedom. It shines bright as a way of darkness pointing towards hope. Today, Harriet Tubman is our North Star. Her spirit should guide us in all the work that we do and inform the kind of people we strive to be. In all her trips, she never lost a passenger, and now we cannot lose her. We cannot lose our North Star. By putting her on the $20 bill, we are not only enshrining her pivotal role in history, we are allowing her story to keep guiding the course of our nation. So I thank my colleagues, I thank Congresswoman Beatty for her leadership. Let's put Harriet Tubman on the 20. Oh, and it is my great pleasure to turn the microphone over to our CBC chairwoman, Karen Bass from the great state of California.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me join my colleagues in congratulating and thanking Representative Beatty for her leadership on this issue, not just today, but over the years. And I stand here with great pride in saying that we are going to stay and fight until we get Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Woo! As we are entering this period in our history where we are reflecting on a lot of different issues and difficult chapters of our history, this is symbolic. As we look at statues that represent people who have committed treason, as we raise the issue as to which direction we're going forward in our country, the question is, do we have a bill with Jackson on it? And yes, he might have been a president, but he also was guilty of human trafficking. He owned 160 of my ancestors. He was responsible for the death of thousands of Native Americans. Or do we have a woman on the $20 bill who represented liberation, who represented freedom, who really represented the true values of our nation? That is an easy question to answer. Yes. We need to have Harriet Tubman on the 20. That was the will of the American people, and we will not let Secretary Mnuchin stand in the way of the American people. We will not let him move us backwards. We're moving forward, and to move forward, we move with Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill.
Congresswoman Karen Bass, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. It is indeed my honor at this time to introduce our Democratic Caucus Chair. As we talk about moving forward, as we talk about leading, it is my honor to ask the Honorable Congressman Hakeem Jeffries from the great state of New York.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. So thankful to be with all of my tremendous colleagues, of course, led by Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. Thankful for her dynamic, phenomenal, principled, unyielding leadership on this incredibly important issue. We are here today to make it clear to the so-called Treasury Secretary that it is time for you to do your job and put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Now, as our chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Karen Bass, indicated, this is an incredibly important moment in America. 400 years ago this month, the first slave ship left the west coast of Africa on its way to Jamestown, Virginia, having arrived in August of 1619. It's been a painful journey in many ways for African Americans here in this country. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. One of the things that we need to do is fully acknowledge our history.
Yes.
And a part of that history was slavery and the fight for liberation and emancipation, and nobody symbolizes that more than Sister Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
And so it's important that she be on the $20 bill because she can capture, help educate, and heal the wounds that we've experienced in America simply by having her face on that $20 bill. The questions that it would prompt and the answers that it would yield will help bring this country further together.
Yes.
She is one of our country's most dynamic leaders, dynamic heroes, dynamic statespeople. We know that Harriet Tubman was known for having a Bible in one hand and a gun in the other. That's what I call a bad sister. She's the original black sheriff. But what Harriet Tubman did, she freed herself from slavery and then went back down south, we know, an additional 19 times, freeing hundreds of black slaves at great risk to her life. She was selfless in her sacrifice. She was one of the nation's great emancipators. And so we can learn a lot from her. She deserves to be on that $20 bill. Harriet Tubman was a great liberator. Harriet Tubman was a phenomenal hero. Harriet Tubman was a wise warrior. Harriet Tubman was a defender of the disenfranchised. Harriet Tubman deserves to be on that $20 bill, and we are going to make that happen no matter what it takes.
That's right.
Thank you, Joyce Beatty.
Tubman on the 20.
And now, it is my distinct honor. There are 3 African Americans who are part of the House Democratic leadership. The great Jim Clyburn, our whip. I'm honored to serve as chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and we all are thankful for the tremendous, principled, dynamic leadership of the co-chair of the Steering and Policy Committee. And I can say, like everyone else can say, Barbara Lee speaks for me.
Thank you so much, Chairman Jeffries, and thank you for your tremendous leadership in bringing our caucus together in unity, in one voice. And let me just thank you, Congresswoman Beatty, for your vision, first of all, and your persistence with this long overdue effort to put our freedom fighter, a black woman, Harriet Tubman, who fought to free enslaved men, women, and children on a $20 bill. Congresswoman Beatty's Woman on 20 Act would honor Harriet Tubman's legacy in 2020. And it's beyond comprehension to me why the Secretary of Treasury would refuse to uphold this decision. Can't understand that, Mr. Secretary.
No.
As a black woman in House leadership who was mentored and inspired by the first African-American woman elected to Congress, Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm brought others along, many of us. And I am offended. I am offended by Secretary Mnuchin's disregard for the life of a black woman who not only fought for her freedom, but brought others to freedom. Secretary Mnuchin should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed of himself. Now, black women helped build this great nation and deserve to be the face of a $20 bill. So, Secretary Mnuchin, we will not be moved. We are demanding that you commit to our timeline as put forth by Secretary Jack Lew, who was the Secretary of Treasury, and honor the life and legacy of the conductor of the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, and all black women who continue to fight each and every single day for a more perfect union and for liberty and justice for all. Harriet Tubman does deserve her rightful place in history. Shame on Secretary Mnuchin. You better change your mind and do what we insist that you do and what the American public demanded. 2020 is when this $20 bill is going to be faced with Harriet Tubman and her beautiful face so that we can move forward and honor her life and legacy. Thank you again. Thank you, Congresswoman Beatty. Let me introduce now a sister who is really walking and living and talking and leading in the life and legacy reflecting Harriet Tubman's tremendous courage and vision and commitment to make this a more perfect union. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from the great state of Massachusetts.
Well, I want to say it is an honor to stand here in solidarity and to do the work every day with these good statesmen and women in pursuit of a more equitable and just world. I'm reminded of a song that I heard as a child in church. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We're gonna keep on talking, keep on walking, marching on to freedom land. Harriet didn't let anybody turn her around. and we're not going to allow anyone to turn us around in the pursuit of getting her her rightful place on the 20. We are not here for charity or benevolence. We are here because the elevation and the enshrinement of Harriet Tubman on the 20 is what she earned.
Yeah.
It was very popular in 2018 to talk about black girl magic. I don't want to give short shrift to anybody's magic, but I know more about black woman work. And that's what Harriet Tubman put in, and that's what the statesmen and women behind me and the black women behind me honor the tradition and the role that black women have played in this country as truth tellers, as justice seekers, as preservers of democracy, as disruptors, and shaking the table. We honor that proud tradition. Now, I want to thank Chairwoman Beatty for her vigilance and for her leadership in not allowing anyone to turn her around. I want to thank our Chairman Elijah Cummings. I want to thank Chairman Cummings, who also has joined us in this, and all the Democratic leadership that is here. During my line of questioning before the committee, I asked Secretary Mnuchin about this. And I was dismayed, but certainly not surprised, to learn that he was not honoring the mandate and the will of the American people. Why? Because this administration continues to stonewall, to obstruct, and to ignore the will of the American people every day. Yes. Secretary Mnuchin has allowed Trump's racism and misogyny to prevent him from carrying out the will of the people.
Yes, yes.
As Mnuchin, like so many others in this disgraceful administration, continues to behave as if his job is to satisfy the president and not to serve the American people.
Yes.
Now, June 6th, and follow up to my line of questioning, following up on the good work and the leadership of Chairwoman Beatty, I sent a letter on June 6th to Secretary Mnuchin saying that he had until July 1st to elaborate on his claims of the redesigned timeline as to why it had been pushed back to 2028. I look forward to reviewing his response. This entire process has been so mismanaged, and now the Treasury Inspector General is looking into it. We welcome the investigation, but it could take months, if not longer. And we are not going to wait. This is about parity, this is about representation, this is about justice, and this is about the fact that more than white men built this country. Do your job, Secretary Mnuchin, and put Tubman on the 20.
It is indeed my honor at this time to introduce the Honorable Brenda Lawrence, who is the chair of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus.
All right.
I want everyone here to know that the reason why we're standing here is because of respect, because of honor. Being the chair of the Women's Caucus in Congress, and knowing that when women succeed, America succeeds. Knows when a woman sits at the table, the conversation changes. To know that 100 years ago, women fought for a basic right in this country to vote. To know that today we're even having the struggles of equal pay. We're having the struggles about our right for our human right of choice and decisions about our health care. To add insult to injury, we are having to stand here today to debate an amazing woman who, through all odds, survived and changed the complexity of racism in this country. Her courage, so many of us are struggled to say, how could this little woman have the courage to free people from slavery when people were being lynched and killed every day? This is a time in this country when we talk about not only the rights of women in this country, it's also the disrespect of African Americans in this country. So as a black woman in America, I still believe that this is a great country. And that's why I stand here today. This woman, Harriet Tubman, deserves the right to be on this dollar, but what, on this $20 bill, but what happens for generations to come? When they look at this piece of currency, as countries all over the world do. They say, here is a person worthy of honor. We must do our job. And I'm so honored to stand here with my colleague, Joyce Beatty, who has provided the leadership. And we know that she will continue to fight, like Harriet Tubman did, against all odds, and against those who say it can't be done, because we will make it happen. I'm proud to bring to the mic now a colleague of mine, a warrior in her own right, the amazing Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the great state of Florida.
Thank you so much. I am proud to join my colleague, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, and all of my sisters and brothers here in the fight to make sure that Harriet Tubman takes her rightful place on the $20 bill. I want to state here very clearly and succinctly that the slow walking and the clear intention of denying Harriet Tubman's place on the $20 bill by Secretary Mnuchin and the Trump administration going right to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is nothing short of racism and sexism. The dual evils of racism and sexism. And I will ask everyone here to raise your hand if you join me in your earliest memory when you were learning American history in elementary school. Who is the first person that you think of that was not a U.S. president when you were taught about important, significant people in American history? For me, that earliest memory was Harriet Tubman. Raise your hand if you join me.
Underground Railroad.
Who here wrote a book report about Harriet Tubman sometime during their schooling? Who here dressed up as Harriet Tubman in a presentation to their public school class about Harriet Tubman? I know I did. I know my children have. And I know I am raising two young girls who I want to make sure see someone who represents them on an important institutional financial instrument like the $20 bill. And we're going to get there, make no mistake. And that victory will be so much sweeter when we were plunking down our Tubman 20s on the lunch counter to pay for whatever it is that women who drive this economy want to make sure we can do. Because women can do anything, and we're going to make sure Harriet Tubman takes her rightful place on the 20. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.